Hey everyone, this is just a quick update video on the steel and aluminium tariffs from the US that have now come into force. I want to tell you what you need to look at when you're importing these products into the US and also what the reaction of a few of the allied countries are, notably this time the EU, the UK, and with a special focus on a very small but important region, Northern Ireland. So if you're interested in all of this, then please join us for this update video. So let's start with the US. So CBP, Customs and Border Protection in the US have confirmed that the Secretary of Commerce has certified the collection of 25% of import duty on certain imports of steel and aluminium articles and derivatives as of the 12th of March 2025. If you want to read the updated guidance that CBP has put out, then the number is coming up. So please, if you need to write this down, it'll be 643844423, CSMS 643844423, updated guidance on import duties on imports of steel and steel derivative products. So the products in scope, how you're going to codify it in ACE. And if you're interested in the aluminium part, it is CSMS 643844496. If you open that, you're going to find all the information as regards the practical importation and the extra levy of the duties into the US. So there is that. Now let's talk about the trading partners of the US, especially the EU. So the EU has had reactions and is imposing counter tariffs on various products. So let's explore that a little bit more. Press releases come out, statements have come out, and various supportive documents. So you want to be looking at press releases that can put that into Google, called Commission Response to Unjustified US Steel and Aluminium Tariffs with Countermeasures. The EU explains in their press release that they are going to respond in two ways, two phases. The first one is going to be entering into force in the beginning of April, 1st of April, and the next one just about 2 weeks later. The first one will allow the suspension of the existing 2018 and 20 countermeasures against the US to simply lapse. So these will automatically come back into place. So we're going to have to look at the regulation from 2018 and 2020, and then understand in their annexes what kind of products will be affected. So these are countermeasures which targets a range of US products that will do economic harm worth of 8 billion euros, it is said. And that will offset then in the first step the extra tariffs that the US now levies on the import of EU steel and aluminium. Then the second phase, in response to these new tariffs, there'll be 18 billion euros of US exports that will now be targeted and will be subject to a customs duty, a higher customs duty, additional customs duty upon importation. So that's a package of new countermeasure actions, and they are subject to a consultation. So from now until the mid of 1 month, the mid of April, we are able to feed back into the European Commission of what our products should be included in this list and what shouldn't, and why. So the EU has proposed a list. That list is available on our website, of course, for download. And then if you have any feedback on this list and you need to talk to the Commission about it, you can also contact us, and we'll be very happy to support you in making your case. The point of the matter is, this is important for you to look at. So whether it will be the press release or whether it will be the Q&A that the European Commission has put out, you might also have explainers there. You might have the list of products that could be subject to possible measures and the call for stakeholder views. All of that on that one website. If you want to download all of these documents, and of course you can do it on our website, we have an article just waiting for you to access, to read. And in this article, we explain, of course, a little bit more what all these measures are all about, why the EU considers them unjustified, and what other kind of action. So that's the EU pretty much sorted. Please take a look at all this information available on the website of the European Commission. Now we're turning to the UK. So the UK has had a bit of a different response than the EU, as you may have seen in the news as well. The UK decides to hold off on imposing additional tariffs. So let's take a bit of a look at that. So the government has now decided, the UK government has decided to go against retaliation of these renewed US steel and aluminium tariffs. And but well, you got to be sure that retaliation is not the only tool in a trade dispute. The UK must obviously balance protecting its industry interests with maintaining long-term relationships with the US. So it's important that we have in the in the words of the UK Trade Minister Douglas Alexander, we need a cool and clear-headed response rather than a knee-jerk reaction. So therefore, it is diplomacy over direct retaliation and possibly aiming for negotiated exemptions or alternative trade arrangements. And that might be a alignment with the broader UK strategy, trade policy, which might favor open communication over aggressive countermeasures. Of course, there are those that argue that lack of a strong action may weaken the UK's position in future trade negotiations. Okay, there is one more aspect I wanted to bring to your attention, and that is the specific impact all of this has on Northern Ireland, which often actually is not considered. So Northern Ireland is part of the EU, de facto part of the EU customs union, and as such is subject to EU customs rules, despite being a fully integrated part of the United Kingdom. So this then means that the customs union and the counter tariffs that are applied by the EU would also be applicable in Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland's unique position between the EU and the UK customs regime offers both opportunities and, of course, challenges. Now, the impact of this trade war with the EU on Northern Ireland businesses is particularly interesting because, of course, where tariffs apply in the EU, they would also apply in Northern Ireland, and product coming into Northern Ireland specifically from the US would be subject to these countermeasures, while they wouldn't be subject to countermeasures if they were to go into Great Britain. So a plane landing in Liverpool and unloading the goods subject to countermeasures in the EU and Northern Ireland would not be facing those in Liverpool. And then there is as close as unfettered access between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. So does this mean that the goods are now being transported to Northern Ireland would enter Northern Ireland without these countermeasures being imposed, while they would be imposed if the plane directly flew into Belfast? So that is an interesting dilemma, and I wonder what the position of the EU and Northern Ireland and Great Britain is on that. So there you have it. Another quick rundown on what you need to know about those tariffs and what they might be saying and who they are affecting, and the very important timelines. If you want to have more details on this, there is a blog entry on www.customsmanager.info, and you're very free to go there, download it, and you get all the information, as well as lots of downloads, Excel sheets, Q&As, and PDF documents. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you at the next video. Bye-bye.